my little yarnivores and spiderettes. Fiber Spider back again with another tutorial just for you. And today we've got ourselves the V-Stitch Puff Medley. This is really easy. It's just a 2-row repeat, and I rather like it because it's lacy, it has a little bit of texture, it works up so fast and easy. I think you guys are really going to like this. So, for this particular piece that I worked up a swatch for, I used Bernat Baby Sport. I do really like this yarn. Not sponsored, but I always like to let you know what it is that I use in case if you want to duplicate the results. It is a weight of 3 yarn. It's 100% acrylic, and because it is a weight of 3, I used a 5mm size H crochet hook. Today we're going to be using the same thing in the lovely purple colorway. And, well, without further ado, let's get started, shall we? Okay, so first things first, as per usual, our base chain. Now, for this particular stitch, the base chain needs to be a multiple of 6 chains plus an additional 4 chains. I always like to try to give you the multiple when possible because that way you can make the piece as wide or as narrow as you want to. Also, you can work up a swatch and you can see ultimately how many multiples of 6 you would need in order to obtain the desired width of your final project, whether it's a scarf, a wrap, or what have you. So, like I said, multiple of 6 plus an additional 4, and we shall get started. I'll see you soon. All right, row 1, it's going to be our foundation row. After that, rows 2 and 3 are going to be the repeat for the rest of the piece. So for row 1, with your chain a multiple of 6 plus an additional 4. By the way, I've got 28 chains here. So into the 4th chain from the hook, we're going to do a V-stitch. So going in with a double crochet, chain 2, and another double crochet. That is our V-stitch, and then the puff we're going to incorporate next. So skipping 2 chains into that 3rd chain, we're going to work a puff. Now, I struggled, and still do occasionally, with the puff stitches because we're going to be drawing up some loops, and you want to be loose with them. You don't want to be too tight, and tension is something that I always have to deal with. So to do the puff stitch, yarn over, going into that 3rd chain there, and pull up a loop. And you want to give it some height. And then yarn over, go into that same chain, and pull up a loop. Again, give it some height, yarn over, go into that same chain, pull up a loop, and at this point, you're going to have 7 loops on your hook. Then we pull through all 7, and chain 1 to lock it in. And, sometimes, yes, my puffs are a little bit taut, but, it's an exercise in loosening up a little bit, something that I still need to work on. So from here, skipping 2 chains into the 3rd chain, going to do another V-stitch. So, double crochet, chain 2, and double crochet into that same stitch. Skipping 2 chains into that 3rd chain, another puff, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, same chain, and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through all 7 loops, chain 1 to lock it in, skip 2 chains, V-stitch in that third chain. So I've got a double, chain 2, and another double. Okay, skip 2 chains into that third chain, another puff. So yarning over, pulling up a loop, give it some height, yarn over, go into that same chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, and again, pull up a loop, pull through all 7, chain 1 to lock it in, and we just got a couple more. So skipping 2 chains into the third, another V-stitch, double, chain 2, double, skip 2 chains into the third, another puff, pull through all 7, chain 1 to lock it in, and we have 3 chains left. And into that last chain, we're going to do another V-stitch. So skipping 2 chains to that last chain, double, chain 2, double. And there you are. So that is the foundation row. Now the next 2 rows are going to incorporate some staggering so that our V's and our puffs are not aligned. And, well, let's continue, shall we? Alrighty. Okay, row 2. Starting off with a chaining of 3. Sometimes I like to start with a chaining of 2, but for this particular stitch, I think a chaining of 3 works out just fine. So after chaining 3, turning the work into this chain space of the V-stitch that we did previously, we're going to do a puff. So yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through all 7 loops, and chain 1. It does take a little bit of practice getting your hook through all of those 7 loops. It takes practice. Believe you me, it does. I will be the first to admit it. All right, so then from here into the top of our puff stitch, we're going to work a V-stitch. And I like to go in where all those loops have become sort of, joined in together underneath that chain. So right into there in the puff stitch. So right in the top there, double, chain 2, and double. There we are. And then into the chain space of the previous V, we're going to work another puff. So yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull through all 7 loops, chain 1 to lock it in. Into the top of the next puff, we're going to work another V. So into the top of that puff, double, chain 2, double, into the chain space of the previous V, another puff, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through all 7 loops, chain 1 to lock it in. Into the top of the next puff, a V-stitch. So that's double, chain 2, double, double, chain 2, and double. Puff stitch in the next V, so yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through all 7 loops, and chain 1 to lock it in. Top of the next puff, a V-stitch. So double, chain 2, almost had it, and double. Okay, in the chain space of this last of our V-stitches, another puff. So yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through all 7, chain 1 to lock it in, and then in the very last stitch, it's not this stitch, but it's the chaining up that we did previously, because we did our first double into the 4th chain, well, into the top here. Now, if you want to, you could go in between these stitches here. That's totally acceptable. I think that would be just fine. Me, however, I'm a glutton for punishment, and I actually like to go into the chain stitch right there. But whatever it is that you decide to do, go for it. And there you go. Creates just a little bit of a straighter edge, it's my opinion. So that is row 2, and one more row, and that will be a full repeat. And then, yes, I would like to do a full repeat of rows 2 and 3, you know, because I like to be thorough, but we shall get there. So let's go. Okay, so row 3, going to begin by chaining up 3, turning the work, and because we have a puff stitch here, we're going to work a V-stitch into the top of that puff. So, right where all the stitches are gathered, go in there with a double, chain 2, and double. There we are. Into the chain space of the V, another puff. So yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through all 7 loops, and chain 1 to lock it in. Into the top of the puff, another V. So that's double, chain 2, double, as per usual. Chain 2, and double. Okay, then into the chain 2 space of the V, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull out some more yarn. There we go. And pull up a loop. Okay, I've got my 7, and then pull through all 7 loops. Chain 1 to lock them in. Now, I haven't tried it myself, but there's nothing saying that you could do more than just 3 of those yarn over and pulling up the loops to make a fatter puff. You could do that, but right now I need to do a V-stitch in the top of this puff. So double, chain 2, and double. Like so. So actually, you know what? Let's give it a quick try. Let's do, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6. So yarn over, pull up a loop. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that's a fair amount more. Let's try it. Yeah, that does work, and then it would be a chain 1 to lock it in. That is definitely puffier. You know, it's a bit more substantial. You know, I'm going to keep the same number, though, for the sake of consistency, but it just shows you that, you know, yes, you can make alterations. The only thing I would suggest, perhaps, is if you're going to go with 5, stick with 5 throughout, or do an entire row or 2 of 5s and then another couple of rows of 3s, and maybe do some sort of stripy action like that. Totally up to you, but I would suggest some sort of deliberate consistency or patterning to your alterations if you decide to do so. But it is possible. So let's do our 3 here. You know, nothing is set in stone by any means. I encourage you all to try new things and experiment and see what works best for you. You know, if you want your puffs to be more robust, go for it. Okay, and then another puff in this V-stitch. There we are, and chain 1 to lock it in. V-stitch in this last puff. And then last but certainly not least, going to do a double crochet into the 3rd chain from the bottom, or just going in between the stitches here. Either or I think is acceptable. I like to go into that 3rd chain from the bottom, right there. Now, if you chained up 2 at the beginning of each row, you would go into the 2nd chain from the bottom. But since I chained up 3, it's the 3rd chain. And I did a single crochet, not a double crochet. I'm a human spider. I make mistakes too. There we go. That's better. All right, so that is how the pattern works up. It's very easy, it's very quick, and I love it because it's very much an exercise in, you know, being mindful and meditative and in the moment, and you don't have to worry about, you know, where's the pattern going? Well, it's one of 2 options. You know, it's either a, you know, row A or row B, but there you go. So let's do rows 2 and 3 together, because I like to be thorough and I love spending time with you guys. So let's, you know, turn back time to row 2. Okay, so row 2 again. Going to start off by chaining up 3. Regardless of what row you're on, you always start with a chaining up of 3. And because we have a V-stitch to begin with, we're going to be doing a puff stitch. So yarn over, in that chain 2 space, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull through all 7 loops. Chain 1 to lock it in place, and yes, I already need to pull out more yarn. There we go. Okay, next up in the top of the puff stitch, another V. So double, chain 2, double. There we are. Into the chain 2 space of the V-stitch, another puff. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through all 7, chain 1 to lock it in. Okay, into the top of the puff, another V. So double, chain 2, double. There we are. Into the chain 2 space of the V, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through all 7, and chain 1 to lock it in. Into the top of the puff, another V. So that's double, chain 2, double. There we are. Into the chain 2 space of the V, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through all 7, chain 1 to lock it in. Top of the next puff, another V, double, chain 2, double. There we go. Puff stitch in the next chain 2 space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through all 7, chain 1 to lock it in, and in that last double crochet. So 3rd chain from the bottom. There we go. And there you are, the end of row 2 for the repeat. Row 3 for the repeat. Last but certainly not least. Start off by chaining up 3 and turning the work. Okay, now because we have a puff, well, we're going to make a V into the top of that puff. It's all about the staggering. So double, chain 2, and double. Okay, puff stitch in the next chain 2 space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through all 7. And when you're doing the pulling through all of those 7 loops, I find that it's best if the hook, the actual hook, is facing down. So when you're grabbing your loop, bring it down a little bit, and then it won't get caught on those loops quite so easily. That's just something that I intuitively have come to do, but I'll show you what I mean on the next one. For right now, V-stitch in the top of this puff. So that's double, chain 2, double. There are some things that we sort of do on autopilot without even thinking about them after a while. It's all that muscle memory that us stitchers tend to develop. So I've got our V there, a bit more yarn. Okay, so into the next chain 2 space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop. Okay, so we've got all of our little loops. And then, so as you can see, if I go slow, the actual hook is facing down so as to avoid getting caught on all of those loops. And there you go. Chain 1 to lock it in, V-stitch in the next puff. So that's double, chain 2, double. I mean, it is rather interesting when you think about it because, I mean, as I'm stitching, you know, I am actually sort of twisting and turning my hook as I go, but I don't even think about it anymore. You know, it's just, I guess, just one of those things. So V-stitch, sorry, puff stitch in the next V-stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through all 7, chain 1 to lock it in, V-stitch in the top of the next puff, double, chain 2, and double. Puff in the next V, yarn over, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pulling up a loop, pull through all 7, chain 1 to lock it in, V-stitch in the last puff, double, chain 2, double, and to finish it up, double crochet into that last double. So that's 3rd chain from the bottom, double crochet, and there we go. Beautiful. And so yeah, you just keep repeating rows 2 and 3 for as long as you want your project to be. And I think it'll be a fabulous project for you, whether it is a light blanket, a coverlet, a wrap, a shawl, a scarf, really whatever. I love this. It's very easy. It works up fast. And, well, there you have it. Hope you enjoyed. Alrighty, my dears. So that's going to conclude today's tutorial on the V-Stitch Puff Medley. Really hope that you liked it. And if you did, please give a little thumbs up button down below. You know that I appreciate your appreciation as always. And, well, hit that subscribe button for more, because whether I'm doing crocheting or knitting or audiobook narrations or various games, recipes, I like variety. It is the spice of life. So please hit that subscribe button. And also, if you are of a mind to, hit that little notification bell icon. I have heard from a number of people that they didn't even realize that I was still posting because apparently they haven't been notified. I don't know if it has anything to do with the algorithm or what, but no, I post like every week, 3 times a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's sort of like a little bit of this and that and the other, and Saturdays, generally, it's some sort of stitching project. So that's, just something to keep in mind, that yes, I'm here for you guys in one way or another, and I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you liked it, and you know what to do until next time, right? I want all of you to stay inspired, stay caffeinated, stay stitching, and please stay safe. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now, everybody, and have a great day.